What if your favorite cult comics grew sharper teeth? Meet Guts, a savage anthology of sci-fi, horror, and fantasy. Bold, graphic, totally inappropriate, grotesque art, dark humor, vibes straight from heavy metal, Mobius, and 2000 AD. Illustrated stories for grown-ups who crave cult aesthetics and gutsy storytelling. Tap now. Read Guts if you dare.
Okay, hello and welcome to the Aureus Press and with Guts Special, a broadcast here with the greatly esteemed Thomas Sheridan, famous pagan. What do you even call yourself? Mysticist?
Well,
Mesmerist?
I'm already shocked by the famous part. I guess someone at the Magical Egypt group they gave me a title a few years ago, and I love it. It's called Alternative Folklorist.
Ooh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, because that suits kind of everything I do. So Alternative Folklorist will do.
Yeah, a man of a deep knowledge, a deep arcane knowledge, and just finding his way through the world via his own things he's learned on his own, I guess, totally
Yeah.
in a illuminating and eccentric fashion, let's say. And I've followed his work for a long time. I got to talk to him once. I think it was we did it. The last interview was probably a couple of years ago, was it? No,
It was about three
maybe two
years ago. I looked the other day. Yeah,
years.
it seems longer though. It seems longer, but so much has happened
Hmm.
in the last 5 years.
Oh my God, yeah, that was before COVID or anything. I think was it?
Oh, I think it was in the middle of
That was
COVID
COVID.
actually.
Yeah. And yeah, he's here with me today because we've been discussing through a mutual friend of ours, getting Thomas into the next issue of Guts magazine in a comic format, which should be absolutely excellent. Having little adventures and things. We've already kind of decided what how it's going to be, and he's all for that. And Thomas, being a man of our vintage, he is a great fan of the kind of era of comic books and the ethos behind Guts and the whole thing, 2000 AD and heavy metal. He understands completely what it's all about. Not everybody does. It's a bit of a hard to explain thing to some of them. Some of them people are a little bit shocked, I think, but like everyone loves it as far as I can see that's read it anyways, but it's a little bit exploitative. There's blatant nudity and gore and stuff. But Thomas does not is not bothered by that.
No,
And
I don't think that's badly needed in this world.
mm,
In this fake, phony, platitude saturated world. It's a bit of that kind of bit of blood and guts honesty is what we need, I think.
yeah, well, it's hard to explain. I've tried to explain it on streams already, the actual ethos and attitude, and sort of to intellectualize it because it is sort of blatantly exploitational. You know, people might think, say something like 2080 is juvenile or all this. I think it's really a kind of high art that's been mistreated and ignored. And first of all, you got the speculative nature of fantasy and science fiction and horror. It could be anything. You leaf through those old magazines, heavy metal.
Yeah.
You know, you go from a Mobius to a Milo Manera, and you could see anything. You don't know what you're going to see. So I love that total freedom of creativity, first of all, and
Yeah.
that's sort of what you know what we were trying to do. And so you were not a hard sell on the whole Guts thing. You're like, yes, I love it. Yeah, and so definitely we want Thomas the next one. But even apart from all Guts and everything, I was dying to talk to you actually for a while about many things. Every now and again, I tune into something you're saying or a video you made, and I have many questions about um, some of your knowledge and some of the things you're talking about. So I think as well we discussed maybe ask I wanted to ask you a bit about how did you word it? Philosophical Satanism versus sorry, what was it? See, I'm
Yeah.
so naive on these things. What was the term?
A philosophical Satanism, and how did like I'll just talk about like when people hear Satanism, they think of like dudes in most people, fellas in
Mm.
robes in a stately mansion with a pentagram on the floor. There might be a sword and some topless women around. It doesn't sound too bad, but it's basically ritualistic cosplay thingy. It's a kind of a stereotype come out of old like Hammer films, like to the devil a daughter, no, not the to the devil a daughter or the devil rides out. In and then there's also LaVey Satanism, Anton LaVey, who wrote the Satanic Bible. That's
Hmm.
really atheism. That's really a form of it's really a natural law coupled with atheism. I read that
Hmm.
book when I was 14, and I thought I was going to be reading an occult book. And like I thought it was going to be, like David Conway's magic books or something like that. And it turned out to be basically a kind of a philosophical moral code. And I actually say I have to love that, it has like, the satanic virtues instead of the Ten Commandments. And the whole thing made a lot of sense to me, in terms of, don't hurt anyone, and leave me the hell alone. And I thought that was the great way to live, I thought. And
Hmm.
LaVey was an interesting character. I mean, the more I got to know about him, yeah, of course, it was theatrical. Of course, it was, deliberately sensationalism and that kind of thing. But it was an interesting thing he came up with. The way he
Hmm.
would troll, like, traditional religion and stuff like that. But then also about him and his daughters when they appear on TV when I was living in America. They make actually very excellent points about like the hypocrisy of, religious morality and this kind of thing. Well, that was, then that's not, neither one of them is what's really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is kind of philosophical Satanism. The term Satanism means the opposer. It comes from an old Aramaic word meaning shaitan, means the opposer or like the contrarian or the contradictor. It didn't necessarily have anything to do with like, spiritual matters, being satanic, even in like a lot of like sort of English vernacular up until the 1800s, just meant someone who didn't abide by the norms, didn't go to
Oh,
church.
really? Oh,
Oh
I didn't know
yeah,
that. So,
oh yeah.
what's the? Can I ask what's the name he's referred to in the original version of the Bible? Do they use the term Satan, or do they use Lucifer, or what? I don't know. I don't even know this.
They use the devil and they do, but
Okay.
there's been so many interpretations where that's been punched in, but they've used it in the correct term. Like it's the serpent in the garden, that kind of a thing. Lucifer
Yeah.
is a mistake. That was actually put into the King James Bible by mistake.
Oh, really?
It appears nowhere in the canonical text. Lucifer is a pagan god, a Roman pagan god, and it was a mistranslation of a Hebrew term that these Scottish and English Calvinists and Protestants made a mistake and they changed
Hmm.
it to Lucifer. So it's not basically a misspelling thing. Lucifer is actually
Okay.
a pagan god, like and it's actually the brother of Diana and the son of Aurora. So he's well established within the Latin pagan pantheon. Originally came from the
Hmm.
Greek as Phosphorus. But and he says
Right.
the god of the morning star,
Hmm.
Lucifer, Venus, Lucifer rising, the god of enlightenment, of a sudden revelation and this kind of thing. Root comes from
Yeah.
an ancient Indo-European word luke, which means a flash of insight, where also
Now,
Lu comes
this
from.
is what I mean. The fountain of your knowledge is the things you've already got into. Are so amazing and excellent and in depth. I mean, that is just amazing that you can. I mean, how enlightening and the depth of your knowledge is quite impressive there. Sorry, I didn't mean. I just had to say it. I
Oh,
just
it's
had to
okay.
point out
Yeah.
this.
Thank you very much. Enlightening, that's the word. Now, so, the devil just comes from the French word of evil, the evil. Like and that's just like a common like, kind of like it's almost like a slang when you think about it. Now, we'll forget the Bible, forget everything. Forget like let's not talk about the nature of evil and wickedness, okay? And we'll
Okay.
call this philosophical Satanism. Now,
Okay.
a classic example of that would be in the Dracula novel, where Jonathan Harker has every opportunity given to him crossing Eastern Europe to Dracula's castle to turn
Hmm.
back and go home. He's warned by the gypsies along the way and the Hungarian
Yep.
women that worked in the hotels, and he even has a spooky encounter with the coach driver. Well, he gets to Castle Dracula, and in the book it's described beautifully. It was done well in the Francis Ford Coppola version too, where he says,
Hmm.
"Welcome, come into my home, cross of your own free will." And that's philosophical Satanism, because even with all the warnings he was given, he crossed over the threshold in the Castle Dracula of his own free will. And so this is kind of like a code I'd imagine a lot of pathological organizations and individuals use, this kind of philosophical Satanism that like, do you want to join our gang? Yes. It'll be pretty tough. Yes. You'll make a lot of money. Yes. But you might have to be in danger. Yes. And they warn you. But once but they also know that they're probably luring you into something that could destroy you. Or they,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and they will give hints like, they'll say, like say if it's like a gang and they say, would you like to, we're a bunch of gangsters. Would you like to join? You could make a lot of money and have a good time. Sure, yeah. You'll be replacing Sammy the Lip. Okay, what happened, Sammy the Lip? Well, we were robbing a bank and he got shot. And who did he replace? Joey the Snake. What happened to Joey the Snake? Well, he was driving the getaway car in the previous robbery and he got shot and got arrested. So you're taking on a role that you're probably going to be some kind of patsy, or at every possibility you're going to be like the one who gets caught or shot, that kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
so when you join, these guys really haven't imposed any great moral sin upon you. They basically were very fair and warned you that you're going to be stepping into this shit more than likely. And if you
Oh,
do, it's of your own free will. So that'd be like philosophical Satanism, like I'll make you an offer you can't refuse, kind of thing. Well,
right.
you could refuse the offer. So
Right.
it's you're lured into something, but you're given, well, I wouldn't say fair warning, but you're given subtle, and if you're intelligent enough, warnings to say it's it's not for me. It's like, someone who gets greedy and is, goes to Las Vegas or Atlantic City or something like that, and
Mhm.
against, that's okay, I've made 10 grand, I'm doing okay. But if I just do one or two more, and then the lights are flashing on the machine, play, 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 the roulette thing is spinning around. It's a form of say it's very occultish actually. It's almost like a bedazzlement and spellbound thing to take your money off you. You go into these places, they're bedazzling, they're glamorous, they're all magical terms.
Right. So is this something that you, I mean, forgive me, like what, so philosophical Satanism, is it something you yourself sort of
Yeah, I
feel you
think
were,
so. Well, I'm sure other people have used, maybe others have used, but it's something because I was having this difficulty trying to explain to people. Well, what does that mean when they sort of lure you into a kind of a dark bargain,
hmm
but you give you a chance to go away? And like Grimm's fairy tales are full of this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
just said, well, if it's purposefully done, it is a kind of a form of Satanism. Because it's got a darkness in it, especially if there's an occult aspect or something to it, which
Right.
lots of gangs are, lots of like, La Costa Nostra and MK13, they're all occult organizations on top of, being
They
gangsters.
are very much so, yeah. I actually
Yeah,
know
so,
another, I know an Irish guy that was, oh, I met him over the summer, and he actually went over there naively, not knowing much about them, to f photograph them. I forget for what reason.
yeah.
And he got really he like, he didn't really understand how dangerous and everything was, but he said he just treated them like, he kind of pretended like the tattoos and the crazy shit. He just pretended like he was talking to normal people, and he said he got by, and they were all nice to him and good buddies. Like, look at this Irish guy, and
Yeah.
they let him photograph him all the time. But he was telling me some of the occult stuff, the Lady Death or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, he said they were really right into it. Like there was a lot
Yeah,
of that kind
Santa Murta. They really come directly from they're a combination of like the Comanche blood cults of the Texas Mexican border natives, and
of.
also, God, look, a leftover from the Aztecs. The blood cults, because that's not that long ago. That's 500 years ago. It's not like
Yeah,
5,000 years ago.
like skulls
And
tattooed right on their face.
they brought Catholicism into it. Like Santeria is very similar too. But yeah, I mean, those guys, that I find. I mean, I've never. He was a brave man for going over there and photographing them. But then again, he
Oh,
was,
well, he said it was out of naivety, like he didn't really
yeah.
understand or something. I don't know
Plus,
how
he
naive
was
he
no
could be.
danger to them, and they probably he played. They probably thought it was a bit of fun. They were going to played on their egos a little bit.
Well, I mean, I've heard of like regular, even just going in like regular places just outside the city, Puerto Vallarta or something, getting kidnapped by, not even those guys, but someone less. So I'm
Yeah.
sure he wasn't a great deal of danger, but apparently he got along famously and he got a lot of good photos out of it. But
Well, he
it's
must
funny you
have.
bring them up. I've thought about them often since then, and yeah, they're
Yeah,
one of the most serious practicing modern type. I guess would you call them philosophical Satanists or what would you call them? I
yeah,
guess.
definitely. There would be an element of philosophical Satanists, whether it's like they're luring someone into their business deals or something.
Mhm.
Where you see, they're saying, we're going to do, we want to do some carjacking on the Mexican border and like run some shops, would you be into that? And he says, well, what kind of money would it make? I make a lot of money, but they're gangsters and they give you every chance sort of like not to do it. but your
Mm.
it shows. So if anything goes wrong, it's your own fault. Like Hostin, and it's funny, it kind of ties in well with Catholicism too, like the Santa Bertha thing you just spoke about with MK13, but also like the rituals within the La Cosa Nostra and the Sicilian mafia, the burning of the saints.
Hmm.
This whole thing that they temporarily own your soul until you're a made man. And
Yeah.
and that's classic philosophical Satanism. I'm going to get made. I have to get made. But
Mm.
they might whack you before then.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're full on Catholics. They're just
Oh,
like
oh
kind
yeah,
of esoteric.
absolutely. It's so that was a lot of Sicilian folk magic would be brought into that.
Oh, there's so many interesting things I could ask you about almost every detail of everything you're saying. I mean, first of all, let me just so we got into that topic, and that's great. And we do want to talk. And by the way, there's my copy of Guts. This is what we're supposed to be overall pushing on this thing. I did forgot to show it at the beginning, but I mean, I wanted to say I was actually working on a story for the second Guts that was about like a little made up '60s kind of sex romp with Anton LaVey pretend set up with Sammy Davis Jr. and like a bunch of other, just like in the style of like an original EC comic. I'm getting this guy to do it and all that.
It,
Just
it,
by
it,
coincidence, that was happening right before I came in. I didn't expect to really be talking about Anton LaVey. I didn't think he'd factor into a discussion on your philosophical Satanism.
oh,
I
he's
guess
like
he's always factored,
he's becoming like Alistair Crowley now. He's fecking everywhere. You can't
isn't he? Yeah.
talk about nothing without him popping up. But yeah, the
But
how many
I,
pages? How many pages is in Guts? It looks pretty voluminous.
it is pretty sick, I guess. 88,
Oh,
which
that's
is
good.
about what you got. It's about what you got in the old heavy metals.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, but yeah. But yeah, that's the guts. But like we also wanted just to talk about general. We can't just sit here and talk about my guts for fucking an hour. So I mean, there's so many things I could ask you about. But like I always was curious about your like I don't know, I don't know anything about Satanism really. I view it as I always wanted to be. I was always interested in learning about the people who consider them Satanists and what they believe. I actually interviewed Nicholas Schrechter, who hates LaVey, thinks he's nothing but a charlatan. Is the impression I got from him, and he now considers himself a Buddhist, a tantric Buddhist. And through talking to him, I figured he's more or less. I believe. I mean, I don't. Your belief system seems so complicated and wild and like it's very well considered that I'm not even sure what to call. You still call yourself broadly a pagan, yes? Would you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd probably like an occult pagan. Yeah, that's probably the best way to
Okay.
put it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's more or less. That's more or
I've
less what you guys
I've
do.
spoken to him myself, personally, and
Yeah,
like they went down the Buddhist road, and so did Zena, his ex-wife, and
yeah.
I guess yeah, absolutely. But the kind of thing is, Anton LaVey, even back in the day, we knew he was a kind of a shyster. Like that was
Oh
never
yeah,
hidden. To me, that was never hidden. That like the way
yeah,
he dressed up like kind of like a devil man. That was obviously a piss take.
yeah. It was very Hollywood
Yeah,
kind
surprise,
of.
surprise. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So you started out you sort of reject and like even say there you have certain forgiving attitudes towards Catholicism. Would you say that? Like say you were talking about the Sicilians and their Catholicism and
yeah.
providing they're
Well,
paganish and
Catholicism.
esoteric enough and not like just strict kind of
Mm,
the more like there's a lot of Catholics nowadays are really very Protestant in many ways. The ones that turn into Catholics on Twitter that I find them to be very, very kind of American prayer circle kind of stuff.
yeah, it's gone a bit weird. I mean, like, I always say to people, if you're going to be a Christian, become a Catholic because it's the nearest religion to paganism. And if you're going to be a Catholic, be a folk Catholic. Possibly, don't deal with the Vatican and stuff like that. Just follow the rituals and the rites, and uh, maybe go maybe go to Latin Mass and things like that instead.
Folk Catholic, is that the term? Yeah. So that's for like someone who's a Catholic but might do like kind of witchy stuff.
Well,
Is a folk Catholic.
be like a Catholic who believes in the whole Catholic kind of canon, but doesn't have a need for the Pope and the Vatican law. Would ignore canon laws and stuff like that, and instead would like
Yeah.
go to holy shrines and celebrate the feast days. Like the Corpus Christi and parades and that kind of thing, and might have a strong affinity for people like Padre Pio, and that there's kind of this part of Ireland is a kind of a big Padre Pio cult, and it's
Hmm.
really kind of like it has this kind of like almost paganism aspect of it.
It does. Yeah.
because he was, like he did magical things like levitate and
Yeah.
all this kind of thing.
Oh, I didn't know he levitated. I thought it was just the stigmata. So he levitated like Rocky Erickson.
Yeah, oh, there's some amazing stories of his levitations,
No
including
way. That's so pagan.
one where he levitated up and stopped American bombers from bombing the town he lived in, and
No way.
and it was yeah, and it was reported by the American bombers that this priest was
A pro Mussolini levitation, no less. I mean, that's
Oh, it
incredible.
wasn't. It wasn't that the Yeah, that's a great name for a band. That Pro Levitation Mussolini's. But the no, it was just the American bombers were bombing the wrong town. It was an intelligence thing, and it was after
Oh,
they were looking for Germans. I think it was after Mussolini fell, and the Germans were like running up the Italian peninsula, and they thought the Germans were in that area, but apparently they weren't. It was just civilians. And that's this is how the story goes anyway. But yeah, like, and there was other things where he levitated in front of his flock and all this kind of other thing.
I did not know that. See,
Yeah.
you're almost have like a photographic memory for everything like spiritual and esoteric, or maybe it seems you've really like absorbed it all like over through the year.
Well,
You
well,
started out like
I have a great love for it. I have a great love for the
yeah.
Fortean and the supernatural and the occult. I have a genuine love for it.
And so you have a certain like did you feel you felt you took this Satanist bargain yourself? Did you get involved and sort of decide
No,
you
no. Well, I kind of did when I was younger. I was getting the music business, then I was like record deals were being offered, and I kind of like figured out if this went wrong, I'd be finished, financially for the rest of my life, kind of thing at 21. But no,
yeah,
I had friends who were classic Satanists, and
yeah,
they're all very interesting, intelligent people, but it's atheism. Most people who call themselves Satanists today are atheists. They're atheists. That's all they are, and they believe in that this is a material universe, and they interject this kind of natural law kind of element to it, where it's like you must abide by natural law, so that you don't hurt people, you don't damage them, you don't oppress people, you respect human rights, this kind of thing. And I say that's most
yeah.
of them today. That's most of them today.
Right. But like even say I remember seeing it, I saw the interview Xena Shrek did with Jordan Peterson, and she was still kind of like excitedly reliving her sort of like witchy spells she had cast and the forces she'd affected in the world and all this. She seemed to have a genuine belief that in magic at least,
Well,
whatever
Tantra,
Anton would.
Tantra is magic. When I was in Sri Lanka, I went to places and I went to basically a witch doctor, and
Mm,
it was done within the framework of kind of like, Sinhalese Buddhism, but it was absolutely as cult as fuck, and it was amazing, So like,
yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, if you're, when you think about like if you got into like hardcore, there's things like annihilation gnosis within magic in the West. It's kind of like the concepts within chaos magic where you torture and you hurt yourself in order to increase your charge. So you might, you actually hold, everything from holding your hand over a candle flame to like putting a plastic bag over your head and almost suffocating and pulling it off the last second. Well, that's basically Tantra too. It's basically the Western version of Eastern Tantra. And so it's terribly exciting. Like, and she was like, when you think about it, when she was a young girl, she's really good looking, very
Mm,
articulate, very intelligent, got a lot of attention on the TV, on the mainstream, very
mm,
photogenic, very, so she's probably, probably like, it's almost like an element of a pop star missing the days when she was in the charts. I think there could be
mm.
something like that going on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, old Shrek really lucked out there with his Frankenstein looking head and his missing ear and all the rest of it. I, don't know. I guess he
Yeah.
was enigmatic in his way as well, obviously, but.
He's all right though.
Uh,
I quite like him actually.
Oh, I liked him too.
Yeah.
I was very, very surprised. I was actually really enjoyed talking to him. Yeah, no, I did like him a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did find it odd how he was so. He was talking about his relationship with Ramirez and all that, and how he kind of, just the fact he could talk about him like he was his pal. He never really, didn't seem to really consider the crimes or the absolutely ghastly ghoulish nature of the guy. He was sort of like separated all that and just be his friend. Despite that, I don't think I could ever look past that in somebody.
No, I
I
couldn't.
found he did have some odd things, and he said he had a dream about watching Ramirez go to hell, and I was like, and he was with him in a chain gang going to hell, and I was like, weren't you terrified? And he was like, no, and I was like, well, why not? And he just said, because I didn't grow up
A
with
Christian.
any Christian
Yeah.
idea of hell or anything else. And I was like, well, I mean, the stories, like
Well, it's
even
fair
even
enough, though.
most even if
It's,
you say Christians and people listening to this now, like we start off right off and we're into Satanism. You know, a lot of them be like, ooh, and very scared, and you know, maybe I understand. Certainly, the threat of eternal torture. Now, I did want to just add that the topic we're discussing is incidental to also me promoting my magazine. And Gus does not have a religious agenda for those Christians that are followers. Christians like Paul, my partner, who is a Catholic, he probably would not like me. It was spreading the idea that Guts is all about Satanism. I happened to be making a story about Anton LaVey just out of interest. I mean, in Guts, you'll find any kind of story that would fit into a 70s or 80s exploitation movie, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, we do have some very cheeky stuff in here. Certainly, it's like people like ourselves that find ourselves being against the woke culture. People automatically assume, okay, he's a conservative Christian or whatever. But no, there has to be space on our side of things for people that are just not that either. You know, bohemian type people that are just what I would consider normal people from 20 years ago or 30 years ago. You
yeah,
know,
liberal people from 20 years ago.
even liberal people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, you could say that. So even like say like Paul, it was Paul himself that convinced me. There is some very cheeky stuff in here. Like he convinced me to put in sort of a page three girl kind of thing, which is this beautiful girl from Telegram. I don't. It's we like my wife doesn't know about that part. But there's like there's nothing satanic about it. Let me just say, we're going to continue with our topic about philosophical Satanism because it's so damn interesting. But you could be forgiven for thinking there's kind of esoteric witchy exploitation stuff. I mean, it looks, but this is, if you're the type of man like us that just wants a bit of grit in their comics and their entertainment, then this
Yeah,
is it. And oh, beautiful cat. Hello, puss.
yeah, that's Billy.
Hello, Billy.
He's more
How's it
famous.
going?
He's more famous than me at this point.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah. Oh, I remember him from like I've seen him in your videos before. Yeah. And even I remember I made this fake ad, gutter trash, and then Paul was like, "You have to make this like real merch that we'll put on the thing for real,"
yeah.
which is pretty funny. Anyways, enough about that. But yeah, there's nothing satanic in it. Oh, and by the way, you were talking about Bram Stoker, supposedly, I mean, according to my wife, and I actually think this is an old wives' tale. I don't think it's true. But there's a graveyard right beside me in Rathfarnham where supposedly he's buried, but I don't think it's true because they would certainly have a big they would probably say over the
No, he's
there's a really
buried.
old
No,
there's a
he's
really
buried. He's buried in London.
oh, is he? Oh
Yeah.
shit, no
But
way.
you know who's
Okay, so
buried?
she
You know who's buried near you?
who?
Sheridan LaFanu, who wrote the
Oh, the original vampire guy. The
Yeah,
real
yeah. He's
original.
buried in Mount Jerome, which is just up the road from you. The next
Yeah.
town, which is a
Yeah, yeah,
fantastic
yeah.
Gothic cemetery. If you're into Gothic like stuff and aesthetic,
Yeah.
Mount Jerome Cemetery is one of the best Gothic cemeteries in the world. So all these old
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Freemasonic temples there and statues of it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. So no, all right. So she must have got confused. She didn't know. She probably doesn't know who that is, and she told me Bram Stoker. I was like, oh wow, really? But I always thought like, yeah, how come nobody else knew this? But yeah, okay, so I knew. So it was him. Yeah, I never actually read that story. I know about it's the first vampire story, but I don't. Did you read it?
The Camilla, the vampire lovers. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right. Yeah, it's lesbian. It's a lesbian vampire story, which is like pretty shocking in its time. So, but
Oh, it would be
it came
published
out
in
of
Guts.
Lord.
It's a perfect Guts story.
Yeah, it came out of whole Lord Byron kind of like they were kind of like the punks of their time, you know.
Yeah. Well, that was a popular topic in Hammer Horror. Any of the was the lesbian vampire story, which makes me really think I really need one in the next issue of Guts. Really, we should make sure that is in there right
Yeah,
before or after your story. Your story is going to be about sort of a quasi. It's a take on conformist people, conformist culture, sort of COVID type behavior. We have it all mapped out. I won't give it away, but anyways, it'll be good. You'll like it. And, and with the caricature of yourself and portrayed as the hero, I mean, this is going to be great. I love
cool.
doing that kind of stuff. I might do it myself because I don't know. I know I can do caricatures. I'm not maybe the greatest of the artists in my team of people, but it's hard. People can be great artists, but it's hard to capture somebody in that way. I will see. Maybe one of them can do it. But anyways, we'll figure it out. But sorry, back to the topic.
Yeah.
Back to the topic of philosophical Satanism. So you yourself didn't didn't take the bargain, but you just something you studied and know about. You didn't feel like you stepped into that world. But I know you practice magic of like what's your take on magic today? Like what do you remember it fondly like Xena does, or do you like how do you feel about it?
Very happy. Very been very good to me in my life. I've never done, demonology or anything like that, but yeah, I've had great success with chaos magic, and just basically, yeah, I mean, I love testing reality. I love testing the boundaries and the malleability of the material world. And magic, occult magic is just another form of art. Like what you're doing is magic. You've taken something that didn't exist in the material world as stories and artwork and plots, themes, characters, and you brought them into manifestation out of your mind and the other artists and writers' minds into a magazine, into a comic, in this periodical. So that never exists. What you're holding in your hand is an act of magic. It didn't exist, but Crowley's definition is fantastic. That it's a combination of art and science. That the actual science is, well, you have to be good at your art. You have to have people who know publishing and know how to do formatting and desktop publishing. You have to know how to do writing and business. That's the science part. But the art part is that some people are better at art than others. Like Frank Francetta.
Hmm.
I know you have the current issue of an interview. Is his granddaughter or daughter, granddaughter, right?
Yeah, granddaughter Sarah. Yeah,
Yeah. That was, that guy was in the world in Warren Comics in the 60s at just the right time, right?
Hmm.
I mean, he was just the right artist, you know.
Hmm.
But you could
Yeah.
have that out of context as well, So you could have like someone like H.P. Lovecraft who was writing just the right stuff at just the wrong time. He was about 20, 25 years too early to
Well,
be able to
in
make
terms
a
of
living.
in terms of him being impoverished, yeah, but he did his legacy is unreal. It's huge. But
And
at least he became famous in the end.
yeah, but he thought he died of failure in Butler Hospital, not Butler Hospital, in the regular hospital in Providence. So he's dying of cancer. He was like
Oh,
convinced that he'd be forgotten and no one would ever think of him ever again. His obituary in the local
yeah,
paper would not be the end of him. But I mean,
yeah.
his act of magic was that it was like the people that he connected with in his life, like Robert Bloch and other people and August Derleth, they just literally became almost like his coven, and they made it their point in life to make sure that this
That's
man's
true.
legacy is never lost. And now you
Yeah,
can't get away from Lovecraft. He's in everything from video games to films.
you'd like to get away. You can't
No, I
get away.
wouldn't. Yeah, I'm not at all.
Oh shit, yeah. August Derleth and who else? There was a few other. There was a guy.
Robert Bloch. There was loads of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
yeah.
loads of them. But they were the
Else
two.
Sprague de Camp, or was he the Kona?
Yeah, his Cthulhu mythos and some of the Conan stories as well. So
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
excellent. Mm. Yeah, you're talking about the magic. Like I've always been creative, and I always do my creative bits. But out of the things you listed, business is not in my forte. That's for sure. My idea of doing business, like saying trying to advertise guts, is to come on and talk about Satanism with you. I mean, that's not a. I mean, it will do good business because your own personal magic has created this enormous audience from your hard work and the magic that you've performed and your ability to talk and pull all these interesting stories and concepts like at the drop of a hat related to almost any topic relating to the next. And
Well, I'll tell you
I
how
mean,
I did
obviously,
it. I'll tell you how I did it. It's through charisma, boosting my charisma. Charisma is an actual a magical art. It comes from a Greek term meaning the gift, the grace of the gods. And I didn't have it when I was younger. I didn't have it at all. Well, I mean, I was a shy kind of kid and was kind of like, I was kind of like the kind of a kid who read comics and read books and, that kind of a thing. And I
yeah,
was a mad
yeah.
music fan. It was true things like satire and stand-up comedy and writing outrageous satire online. And funny, that's how Lovecraft started. He wrote a satire on romance novels in a magazine called Argosy, and everyone thought it was so funny. He ended up getting a job as a writer. But that I was doing that as well, like on like the old days of Usenet and stuff, the outrageous satire and stuff like that, and like that with stand-up comedy and things like that. That's literally how I built up because it was the response to that gave me more confidence. So it was like a magical charge came into me through people saying, I never I've never laughed so much in my life, some of the stuff you've
Really?
written. Well, that can like
Yeah.
that helped. It's like, you guys, like when you hold that thing in your hand and you say, okay, the next one is going to be even better. And that's a form
Mm.
of what you're doing is you're amplifying your nervous system. This is the whole thing of magic. It's not for changing others, it's for changing you. It's personal development of the self. It's a form of yoga, and this is, and this is what a huge mistake people make is they think they can use, this is what it usually, when it usually goes wrong, is they're using magic to actually change others to their will. Like, I'm going to make that chick want me. I'm going to make, that guy get me the job. I'm going to make, it's all about you imposing your will on someone else. Well, that's black magic. But if you do it just for the sake of, I want to be a better writer, I want to be a better joke teller, I want to be a better guitar player, a comic book artist, well, then you will find that you will be able to change the universe. You will be able to change the rules. And a lot of it has to do with the amplification of your nervous system and also the attenuation of your nervous system down to the specific things that you were good at. Like if you look at someone like Jimi Hendrix, right? He was all over the place as a musician in his early days. He's placing or show-based American versions of like cabaret lounge bars and stuff like that. But when he got that
Mm.
Stratocaster and then blocked out everything except being the Jimi Hendrix with the distortion pedal, the Marshall stack, and the straightforward
Oh, you froze for
sound.
me.
That's
Is it me?
that's when the magician, that's when the shaman came out, and that's magic too. That's a very good description of magic.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's very easy to lose what you have. Everything seems to have a little lifespan, then it kind of vanishes from your grasp. As the originator, you can't. Although he influenced so many other people that went on to do their own amazing things. So that is magic. You're right. It is absolutely magic.
Oh, 100%. That's a
And
yeah.
yeah, so like I know I asked you all this. I asked your sort of personal story in the last interview that I did. I was amazed to hear it was to do with you boosting your charisma, like a D&D character, and you just rolled the dice again and just gave yourself a 20 charisma or whatever. And I was fascinated by how you just willed that upon yourself and made it real, and it just happened, and that's great.
Yeah.
And that you would be this famous Irish person for doing this. That's why originally in Guts I thought I should do you as a mesmerist and the little hypnotic swirls in your eyes. Not that you're tricking or
Yeah,
making
but
people
but
do your
but
will,
but,
but
but
just that you're.
mesmerizing would be affecting someone else. If anything, I'd be doing it to myself
Mm,
in the mirror.
that's true. You're not fooling anybody. You're just kind of
No,
you're performing magic on yourself.
I want to create a pure stream of energy towards what my objective is, and my objective is to I say my whole life, my artistic public life has I just like I like interesting shit, right? I like stuff that I find is
Hmm.
interesting shit, right? And I think lots of other
Hmm.
people would find this interesting shit too. So
Yeah.
let's get it out there. That's been my only
Yeah.
motivation. And anything that's
Yeah,
flouted
me too.
on that was because
Yeah. And that's the only way. Go on. Sorry. No, I don't mean to
no,
cut you off.
that's it.
Sorry.
I'm
Go on.
finished. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, no, and it's extremely important that we do that to like as much as we can
Yeah.
and to become a force in the world in that sense and like influence in the ways that we think and would like to see it. And it's all, I believe, positive as long as it's creative and with good intent. Our ultimate intent is not like even at the start of this, we're talking about Satanism. A lot of people get all spooky and scared and think we're evil or something, but it's nothing to do with that. We're not.
Yeah. But
How do you describe it? Like,
I'm not interested in Satanism. I've never had a other than I read Anton LaVey's book when I was a kid, like a lot of but I also read Simon's Necronomicon and lots of other things, But it's
mm,
like Saint Cyprian's. That's one of my biggest videos actually is the book of Saint Cyprian, the Forbidden Book of Magic, and
what's
it's
that? I don't know. What's that
oh
about?
yeah, well, it's like this kind of like supposed to be like the most notorious. It's supposed to be almost like the most dangerous. It has this reputation. The Book of Saint Cyprian. It's basically a
Okay.
Portuguese, basically, or where, but it's like when you read it, it's like it just seems like basic sort of like astrology, cardmancy, and other forms of like more basic, almost like folk magic. And then you're
Right.
reading it and you're thinking to yourself, well, why is this thing so? intense, but then it got the dark stuff in it, like, the kind of like the black magicy stuff where if you want something to happen, you want to, if you can like animal sacrifice basically, which is still a big thing in Africa. So basically cut the head off a black cat, plant two seeds in the size, bury it in the ground, and the shoots of the plant that come up represent the um the fulfillment that it's like the charge. It's creating the charge. So it's like dark folk magic. There's lots of there's weird things like that in it, but there's not much of it. There's some interesting stuff on it, like sort of like geographical astrology, which I've kind of found kind of fascinating actually. That like each cities
So it
have
wasn't that you didn't find it that intense. So its legend is a bit exaggerated, you figure, overall.
yeah,
Is that
oh,
what you're
well,
saying?
yeah, but it would have frightened shite out of people back like 100 years ago. Like it'd be like, the way nudity would have shocked people in Victorian times, or
Yeah.
it would. Yeah, if you were like a
Oh,
nice,
I've seen some body. I've seen some body in Victorian era stuff, and even earlier, like if you've seen the nudity, you've seen the carry on of like the princes in their boudoirs with the even pre-Victorian. Like there was a lot of
that
secretly
was stuff. But
body stuff going on.
I'm talking about the average like ordinary person who goes to mass on
Yeah.
Sunday.
I know what you
It would have
mean.
blown them. They
Yeah.
would.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like terrified. They'd be terrified of it. Like even seeing the book, they were
Mm,
terrified of it. But that's what it's like. These, it's the difference, the generational and cultural differences can actually. This is why when the English witchcraft laws were stopped, right, were taken off the
yeah.
books. You had like Crowley and Gardner got together to invent Wicca because you couldn't have people who lacked the maturity and discipline to do something like proper magic, suddenly casting
Yeah.
spells on everybody. It would cause absolute chaos, and you see that, so
Yeah.
they create this kind of thing for them to play with called Wicca. Now, so that,
Mm,
a lot of that that's what did that lead to? Well, that like a lot of these kind of this is archaic magic things, they don't work anymore. Well, I shouldn't say they don't work anymore. They've lost their potency. Like say, like
mm,
the Greek papyri magic. Things like the headless rite and all. These were all like big deals back in the day. And the Book of Saint Cyprian, what I just said, and Thelema. Well, we live in an age of high technology with an enormous charge. So you can avail of the same charge by going to a death metal concert and getting into the mosh pit and firing up your nervous system that way. So that's why that was all superseded in the 70s by things like,
yeah.
Phil Hine and people like that coming along.
Yeah. I was actually at a death metal concert not too long with Paul. We went to Obituary. It's actually amazing. The guys our age. What am I saying? They're older than us,
Yeah.
with somehow magically full heads of like glorious long hair. They didn't look much different than when I was a kid. I was like, wow, how did they manage that? But I mean, it was amazing. You could feel the power though, because I hadn't been into like any death metal thing for like a long time.
Yeah.
But it was very powerful. I did feel like the magical power of the music and the sound and the whole thing. Like, just I did get quite invigorated by it, and felt I don't know, I felt a bit inspired after that again. It was like, yeah, this stuff is still going on. Good. There's still
I,
daring, creative, artistic kind of,
yeah, I charged a seal in 2009 at a Ian Brown concert in Castle Bar. And
Oh yeah.
this,
Castle Bar, that's where I'm from originally. Go on.
yeah,
Sorry.
at the Royal Theatre, and the gig was phenomenal. And so I had the sigil in my hand, and they did when he did the encore, and then they finished the gig and then did the encore, and it was like the opening chords of Fear, Fear, and the place
Mm,
just, you could feel the energy rising, you could feel the psychic charge just going into meltdown. So I just,
mm,
I held the sigil really really tight in my hand like that
mm,
during the
mm,
song, and then tore it up when it was over. So the charge was harvested into that moment. So it was like, this is how you can go to do it on a roller coaster, wherever, like, so wherever you can find the charge, but the bigger the charge and the more psychically intense in its purest way. Those people were charged up at that gig, a lot of young guys there, a lot of kind of testosterone kind of,
mm.
rock concert kind of thing. And this is there's loads of shitty books about the occult and music, and they all miss the fucking point. Pardon my French. They all miss the point because they don't really they don't understand. They think it's demonic or satanic or evil because but this is all. This is all that this is what they're frightened of is the ability of some guy on a stage with a microphone in his hand to actually control 100,000 people in a stadium. This kind of thing, that power. That's
Yeah.
the real mystique. People going about Led Zeppelin and the occult and all this kind of thing, the whole thing, and like
Mhm.
they messed with magic. Sure, we know Jimmy Page did, but that he didn't need it anymore.
He bought Crowley's house. Did he move into Crowley's house? That's true, isn't it?
Yeah, Boleskine House up there by Loch Ness. But here's another factor for you. That
Yeah.
make good. Another good comic would be that. What's his name?
Yeah. Oh shit, that's a good idea. That is a
No, I've
great
got
idea.
a good one, a good storyline that you could probably work on is how Aleister Crowley during the aborted Abamelin the Mage ritual created a Loch Ness monster, which is my theory, and I'm absolutely believe
Oh, that's good too.
which he did. Like people said to me, "Oh no, but Saint Columba, Saint Columkill banished a monster back in five something." No, read the Irish annals. This is why I'm a folklorist. The Irish annals are very specific. He banished a sea monster at the mouth of the River Ness in the sea, not in the lake. The sightings of the monster never happened until Crowley fecked off to Paris and left that portal opened that allowed this entity to like manifest in the lake and has remained there to this day.
Wow.
Mm,
Now that is the story. That is amazing. Oh, I did want to ask, so sorry, you were saying about the sigil at the concert. So when you had a sigil and you absorb the power, that's
yeah.
something you feel that you can use personally. Like, what did you do with that? Or is that,
Yeah, well, it was for my
how,
creative. It was to help boost my creative life. Of course, I can't tell anybody because that would undermine it. But it was like to help
oh, I
me
see.
develop a creative project, which was incredibly successful. And now here's the thing: was it the sigil
Okay.
or was it my charge, my determination? Does it matter? Does it matter?
No,
It doesn't
no,
because the
no.
actual process was fulfilled.
Yeah. See, this is how I see it because I don't see, I'm not very naturally I'm not naturally superstitious. I've tried to make myself more superstitious as I've come to learn about the kind of things you talk about. But like, I do see it as sort of inexplicable forces in the world, like the way everybody can see that the way things influence each other and the nature of energy and things it's just utterly inexplicable. It's not rational at all. So
Yeah.
if there is any way to harness these things or to be a part of it or do anything, it'll be something just crazy. It has to be something oddball and crazy and that makes no sense. If that,
Oh, yes, there's so many
it has to be
signs.
along those lines.
Yeah, so many scientific discoveries have been surely by like weird things, not done in the
Yeah.
lab. Someone was having a bath or riding a bicycle or this kind of thing, and
No.
the eureka moment. But if you're doing ritual
Yeah.
magic, if people are interested in ritual magic, I would say be very careful. But, because it's really is a science that you have to get things right. You can't just nonchalant do it. Like, did you see the movie version of The Colored Hour of Space with Nicolas Cage? Did you see it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Did
Yeah. Yeah.
they added a great twist into that film? And I spoke to the woman. I know the woman who was the magical, the occult. What you call it?
Supervisor or
Supervisor
consultant?
or whatever, yeah, for the film.
Yeah. What?
And she
Yeah.
was saying that she put that scene in there. The scene, what happened was, it was the girl was doing Wicca on the beach, on the lake, by the side of the lake, right? And she was a bored teenage
Yeah.
girl stuck in the countryside with her kind of like hippie father, who was like into growing organic vegetables and shit like that, right? But she just,
Yeah.
she wanted what all teenage girls require, a bit of excitement. So she did this
Yeah.
kind of but what she didn't know that underneath the lake was an ancient megalith that's in the book as well, or there's an island with a megalith on it, and that opened the
Yeah.
portal for this alien force to come down and blast them, make the blasted heat that destroyed the family. So because
Yeah.
she just thought she was practicing at a lake, but she didn't do the science part. That like is she on a ground that was actually previous magic had been, and I thought that was a fantastic twist in that movie how they added that. Often when they do interpretations of good stories, they rarely add something new that's cool, but they did. That was one
Yeah.
one example where they did.
Yeah, that was good. I actually saw a movie last night. I don't know if you've seen it, but you certainly appreciate Weapons. Did you see that one?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I heard it's quite interesting.
Oh, it's good. Yeah. Oh, and it's all and it's complete. You reminded me of it earlier when you were saying about controlling people because it's all really about this witch in a modern neighborhood. Well, I know I shouldn't give it away because it's
Yeah, don't give it away
you
because
don't really care what's.
that's what
But
really.
she's like absolutely. There's total control of people, like turning him into these crazy assassins and stuff. It's
Have you?
just it's very well done. It's good.
And what about the prophetic things of movies? Have you ever seen? Have you seen that film Awaiting Further Instructions?
No, I wanted to.
Holy
I read
shit!
about it. Yeah.
Holy shit! It's about like it was made like a few years before the whole COVID thing, and it's about an alien force that traps people in their home and tells them to wait for vaccines, and they can't leave until the vaccine arrives. And you're like,
No way.
holy shit! So this is the artistic process, like Carl Jung said, has a predictive quality to it. Like they're actually able to escape present space time and kind of pick it up in the future and take it back. But yeah, I mean that film. Like I know people didn't like. I thought the film was a masterpiece, but it's about a suburban
It must
family
be.
in England who go absolutely bonkers during a lockdown, and this was from 2 years before COVID.
I know the name. Hold on, let me write it down quick. So maybe I'll watch it when I go inside. What's it called again? Sorry.
Await further instructions.
Wait further instructions. I won't forget this time because I remember hearing it before and wanting to see it, and then I forgot all about it. I'll message myself. But yeah, I do believe that. Yeah, the power of creativity, of even trying to be an artist and trying to be creative, at least you will eventually kind of unleash a power, I'm sure. Like,
Oh,
some
absolutely.
people aren't great at mastering the art that they try, but even those that are spectacular failures can be incredibly like, people like Ed Wood and
Oh,
you
yeah,
know they
Love,
can have
Lovecraft was a spectacular failure. You know.
well is actually well so Ed Wood's work actually sucked.
Yeah, that's true.
Lovecraft
That's true.
did
Yeah.
excellent work, but he failed. It was actually heartbreaking about Lovecraft. If you read, he would go and eat a bowl of baked beans, giant bowl of baked beans. He got really cheap, and that was his meal every day. It was just like that's all he could afford was a giant bowl of beans. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine that the guy so celebrated today,
Oh yeah. I
but
mean,
even then, he's not like
imagine what the franchise on video games would be worth if he still had the copyright.
oh Jesus Christ. Yeah, if only he'd had a legacy and had children and everything, and there was someone around to say,
No, and
yes, he was my this and that.
but that was probably his. That's his. It's the whole thing of the hero's journey. The whole thing of his. That was his dharma. To get back to kind of like Eastern Tantra, that was his
Yeah.
dharma. It was
Hmm.
like the we hear this in folklore all the time. It's like it's even in like in Fraser's anthropological study, like the golden bough. We'll make you a king for a day. You'll be able to do whatever you want, but then we'll just take it away from you.
Yeah, well, that's apparently. Did you ever read Robert Graves, and his account of ancient Greece or whatever?
I
That's the first time I read. That's the first time I personally read about, according to him, and anyways, the very ancient society that preceded Greece. That was the whole thing. That they had a king every year,
Yeah,
but
the mock king.
he was sacrificed every year until it came to a certain point, and he learned to sacrifice somebody else, and
Yeah, I think that
and
was like
continued.
it was like a prima Nolan sect, but it existed
Yeah.
in Africa up until quite recently in other countries.
Oh, what that concept of the king must die every year? Or?
The mock king, yeah,
Mock king. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, a king, and it was almost, but you'd have to die.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we do. I mean, it's something that there's probably some truth. I'm sure there is a great truth to that. I don't know. It certainly makes it has that element of okay, you can take this position of power, but it's a very limited and perilous thing. It's not this enormously desirable thing of nothing but benefits that say a modern politician would get. He doesn't see any downside to taking control of everything. In that way, I guess the burden of responsibility and I don't know. It's like a curse as much as it is a great boon. Maybe
Oh,
there's something to
absolutely, it
that. I don't
is.
know.
I mean, you don't have much money at the beginning. That if you get a few $1,000s or a few €1,000, you're so happy you can do things. But when you've got like hundreds of millions in the bank, what makes you happy anymore?
Yeah,
Where does the thrill
exactly. Yeah,
where's the thrill come from? So
yeah. I've always been
it is they say
mindful.
poverty is a curse, but so is being
I
do the
wouldn't do
same.
it selfishly.
Yeah. Make movies and stuff like that.
I would certainly limit my gold-plated AK-47 collection to maybe
Uh,
just three or so.
Maybe, yeah, maybe, yeah.
But in terms
Yeah,
of philosophical
one
Satanism,
Caravaggio would be nice, you know.
oh, like the one they found on the wall behind the was it? It wasn't a convent. It was a monk's Christian
It was
Brothers place or whatever.
a Sisters of Mercy convent in Dublin. Yeah,
It was a convent. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah,
yeah. That
and it's
painting in the
amazing.
National Gallery, it's amazing if you haven't seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
It was.
he looked like there's anything here, and then he said he literally had this moment where he knew his life was never going to be the same again. There was a missing Caravaggio called The Taking of Christ, and there it was in the back room of in a sort of like a storeroom in a Sisters of Mercy convent. And he said that he said, I have to check this. I think this might be very valuable. He said he walked across from the convent back to the National Gallery with this thing wrapped up, and he said he was shaking and trembling in terror because he knew he had the missing Caravaggio.
My God, and it's so good. And, did you know how did they come to possess it? Does anybody know? Or
That's yeah. That some year, 100 years ago, apparently, some rich dude left his art collection to the convent because they
right,
educated his daughter or something like that. So it was a bequeath, which was a very common thing back in the old days.
and in the years since, they just kind of didn't lost track of. They didn't know what they had.
I think the National Gallery paid millions, but it was still worth millions on top of that.
It's one of the most memorable paintings at the National Gallery, I would say. It's like
Yeah,
pretty.
I love the way they display it in the room, and they have some of Harry Clarke's stained glass in kind of boxes behind it. So it's like you
Yeah,
have this kind. Yeah, no, I find it almost like a temple. I love the National Gallery, and whenever I'm in Dublin, when I used to live there, I used to like in Dublin, I used to practically live in the gallery. But like that
yeah.
there's something very meditative about the room at the back where they have it displayed. I find it anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you seen it? Have you gone when they pull out the Harry Clark illustrations on paper or whatever, and they
Yeah.
have them in that little room with the watercolors?
Oh, I was
Those
an
I
art. I was a serious art geek. Incredible, aren't they? I even went for
oh,
The Turner
oh,
watercolors and
unsung
drawings I put
hero.
out. Yeah, I was covering him in America, so he's another chap that died young. That's another. He died of an asthma.
Oh,
He died of asthma on a train coming back from a sanatorium to
was
Dublin.
he even 30? Was he even like he was like 30, early
I
30s, or
don't think I
if
think it was mid 30s. He'd only just gotten married. It was a terrible story. I mean,
yeah,
he did get a lot of work doing stained glass, and he illustrated the Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart and a
yeah,
few of the stories, which are amazing. But
yeah,
imagine if he
yeah.
had lived long enough to do Lovecraft.
Oh, oh shit, yeah.
Talk about a
I
match
just
made in
remember,
heaven or hell.
yeah.
A
Well, he's
match made
made
in
like
Arkham.
spent most of his time doing the stained glass, and I love the stained glass. But when I saw his little actual drawings, my mind was blown to bits. Like the fineness of the lines.
No, the inking is so opaque with no sort of like variation in the black. You
Yeah,
know, it
yeah,
was again at the art and science. He was the science of creating illustrations.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolute master, absolute master. I mean, that would be a whole other topic for another stream. Hello, we're back, and yeah, I was just saying there that I would like to. I don't know anything. You mentioned a guy named Dennis Wheatley to me, and I don't. Ashamedly, I do not know much about this guy. So did want in reference to the philosophical Satanism, I did want to finish up and just learn these little tidbits about him and what you might think about what did you Crowley and Satanism, Crowley's philosophical Satanism, or what your take is on Crowley overall
Well, do you want
and
me to
those two things?
talk about Dennis Wheatley first?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Whatever you like.
Dennis Wheatley was a British author. The two of them knew each other. The Dennis Wheatley was
Yeah.
a British author he's one of the biggest selling authors in the world. He's written, he wrote dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of books. A lot of them had to do with things like spying and espionage, but he was also the
Hmm.
master of the occult. I mean, there probably wouldn't have been Hammer horror films and Christopher Lee and all that stuff if he didn't write his books on the occult, like The Devil Rides Out and so on. How
Oh,
he's
that's him. Oh shit.
yeah,
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was a very interesting guy. He was a member of the London Controlling Group, a kind of like an occult warfare group that existed in London during World War II. And Ian Fleming was also a member. And they used to keep a statue of a faun, a satyr, like a kind of a pan character, on the desk of where you'd hold the meetings. So it's like it was a way of kind of like an occult bureau, if they could use kind of like secretive means to win the war. Very interesting. Well, the Germans were notoriously famous for that. I mean, I wrote a whole book about it called Walpurgis Night. But he was in that. Now he became a very successful author writing horror stories, The Irish Witch, The Devil Rides Out, the Toby Jug. They just go on and on. And a lot of them were adapted into films like and very successful films like The Devil Rides Out. And he what happened was, it's very interesting too. Actually learned a lot about real occult from his books because, yeah, they're stories. They're usually the story of someone who gets involved in something, and there's an occult organization involved in it, and it usually takes place in stately homes in England, or they do a lot of travelogue kind of things, and it's usually this guy called Count Richelieu, who's like almost like a Sherlock Holmes of the occult, and he has a friend or someone he knows who was seduced by this coven, this occultist coven. Now, when you actually read the books,
Mhm.
he actually lays out real magical theory. So the man had done his
Yeah.
work. He knew his shit. And he was probably whistleblowing to a fair degree as well because we were getting to hear what was going on in British stately homes, eyes wide shut kind of stuff, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so yeah, apparently, so the books are a fantastic read. They get like attacked today because they're very unwoke. There's like they're
Excellent.
like
Everything about it is so good.
I know all the baddies are all swarty foreigners and sort of like shifty Arabs and stuff like that. But they're very well
Well,
written.
The James Bond guy was like that too. The what's his name?
That was
Fleming was like that too. Yeah, they were all like,
The Enid
it's normal.
Blyton
It's normal.
books. The Enid Blyton books, the Fantastic Five or whatever they're called, like that foreigner looks like a threat to our kingdom, to the empire. Let's get him, you know,
Yeah,
this kind of thing.
it's true.
That's how it
True.
was. That's just how it was. But the way you read it now, they add a comedic element that wasn't there, before. But
Yeah.
there's like some of the stuff was amazing. Like there's a book, one of his books that really influenced me is called Strange Conflict, and it was about the secret British War Department. And the book was actually written in World War II, who go into the astral planes and fight Nazis on the astral planes. And he gets into things like
Oh, I
Eastern
have to see. I have to read
yeah,
this.
yeah, it gets into things like Eastern mysticism and Tantra and life, and like while he's in the astral body, he sees bombs landing on London, and then he sees all the bodies of the people, the dead people, spirits rising out of the bombed buildings. This was when I was like 13, 14. Jesus Christ, that was like the best entertainment in the world, you know what I mean?
That is
Like
amazing.
it was just your mind, boom, that was then I discovered Lovecraft, but like that was like, Jesus, like you were like this, like you pick up like a secondhand paperback book for 10p or 5p, and they give you that much entertainment, So that was Dennis, and I have like nearly all his books, even some of the collections here. And so yeah, very successful author, very very successful author. There was
Huh.
He was a friend, he was a personal friend of Christopher Lee, the actor, so who was actually in
Well,
films that were
Lee
based
was
on.
very much against the occult. I know. Lee was very spoke out against
Yeah,
anything occult. I
yeah. I
know.
mean, yeah, he did have. Yeah, well, he was kind of, he was a tradition. Well, he was a devout Catholic, Christopher Lee. So he really believed in
Yeah.
the whole. That was like your soul would be in danger. Like I saw him that thing in Dublin. He did, when he was playing Gandalf, and he was did a kind of like a lecture tour for his heavy memory. He did heavy metal albums, the Charlemagne heavy metal
Yeah.
album. And he was talking in Dublin, and
Yeah.
he was like, was symphonic metal really, and he was saying like
Yeah.
he was very genuine. He said like the occult is not, don't mess with it. You might go mad or lose your soul. So he's very Catholic, his viewpoint was very Catholic. And there's a video of him in England in the 60s, and he's telling like, it's going on all over the place. There's an occult revival, and people need to be very careful. So his opposition was theological, purely theological. But yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, and he saw his films as warnings about the occult, in the same way that Saruman
Yeah.
was a warning against the occult in the Lord of the Rings. But
Yeah.
but anyway, so a lot of you can tell like Macarta, the character in The Devil Rides Out, the leader of the coven that are kidnapping the Virgin to sacrifice him is based on Aleister Crowley, I think. I mean, it's just too close for words. Like you can definitely see. And
Yeah.
Crowley, what do I think of Crowley? Well, Crowley wasn't a Satanist at all. He was a Thelemite, which was a kind of like based on a kind of an offshoot of like Greco-Roman magic mixed with Germanic occultism of the Order Templar Orientis. It was basically a kind of like a proto-Gnostic religion, heavily
Right.
invested in things like Egyptian Hermeticism and stuff like that. And it absolutely had
Right.
nothing to do with Satanism or anything like that. Now, he was the
Right.
ultimate troll. And I think of a lot of, like we talked about at the beginning of what's his name? LaVey was trolling people dressing as the devil. I mean, Crowley
Yeah.
actively wanted to be seen as this. He was the first rock star. He was the first he was the first like Marilyn Manson, the first that kind of Johnny Rotten, the first. Well, I know John wouldn't like me comparing to him, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Alice
Yeah.
Cooper,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that kind of thing. Now
Yeah.
he was the first to
Yeah.
understand the power of that. And the rites of Elusium, which was kind of like a Hermetic Greek revival in the form of a Gnostic mass slash performance art thing that took place in Caxton Hall, is probably the very first ever rock concerts. It was based on ancient Greek mystery plays, but the whole thing of like it was to build a charge with the performance. So he basically, I saw an interview years ago with Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and he said, "Well, what do you think
Hmm.
of Crowley?" He says he basically invented the 20th century, and there's a lot of truth to that. The rock star lifestyle, the heathenism, for good and
Yeah.
for bad. But I mean, his attitude was that we smash it all up, and good stuff will come out of it. And like we got Elvis, we got Jimi Hendrix, we got what you do, you're a good comic. We got Warren Comics, creepy and eerie. We got the devil,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he made life
Wheatley.
infinitely
We got
more
Dennis, we got
interesting.
the Wheatley guy that I don't didn't know about. That it sounds
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
He
Dennis
so
Wheatley.
Crowley made life more interesting for all of us.
Yeah.
And the people who
Yeah.
criticize them don't know anything about them. Like you get like within the alternative scene, in the sort of like truth scene, people saying, "Oh well, in theory and ritual and magic, he talks about you have to kill a little boy." He does not. He was talking in an anthropological sense, like Fraser and the Golden Bough, that is that
Mm.
there are certain sacrifices that are used in hardcore occultism, and a young boy is one of the worst. But he wasn't doing that. He wasn't involved in that. Now he was involved in all kinds of other shit, like he was a notorious drug addict. I mean, he had like, and again, like the womanizing thing. The rock groupie was invented for him. That became in the rock groupie. You know what I mean? And I mean, even when he was an old guy, even when he was an old guy, like and very ill, he had like beautiful young women like lining up to sit on his face, kind of thing. I mean, this guy was like unbelievable. And and again,
Yeah.
you listen to it today, and it's kind of funny. But back in those days, in the 1930s and 40s, in
Yeah.
England, that would have been considered like that was the wickedest man in the world. Forget
Yeah.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just absurd when you think about it. Like, who did he kill? He wasn't Stalin or Hitler, but I mean, and so I'm grateful to Crowley and some of his. I mean, the first book I ever read about him was an astrology book, and it was as funny as it was interesting. He was talking about like certain astrological signs produce useless people, and he gave an example of William Butler Yeats, the Irish poet. He goes, "Yeah, he's useless. This proves it, And it was very funny reading that one. And then that was before I knew about the Battle of what was it? That street in London where they were in the Golden Dawn, and he tried to take it over, and William Butler Yeats kicked him down the stairs while he was dressed in He was dressed in Scottish
I
regalia.
didn't know this.
Oh, it's
Really, I didn't know this.
you've got it. Yeah. The
Yates
battle.
looks so unassuming, like a really mild and kind of unhealthy looking guy. I didn't know he had been kick Crowley downstairs.
Oh, it
Yes,
was even it was even funnier than that. It was like Crowley would taunt Yeats by saying, "I'm a real Irishman. My ancestors were called O'Kralligs from County Cavan," which
yeah.
is actually
Crowley is an Irish
well,
name, is it?
yeah, from Cavan, and it's from and the same town that the Sheridans are from, which is kind of weird anyway. So I'm probably related to the motherfucker. But
No way. That's funny.
going
That's
back,
funny.
but he used to taunt me. He says, "You're an Anglo-Irish, Englishman. I'm the real Irishman here." Just this kind of thing in the Golden Dawn days. But the Battle of
Oh,
Blythe
that
Road,
is funny.
he kicked him down the stairs, and when they got to the bottom of the stairs, Crowley made the sign of the inverted pentagram, and hexing uh, Yates, and but I'm amazed this stuff hasn't been made into really good films and stuff because Crowley's an amazing character. I mean, he was a mountain climber. He was a very famous mountain climber before anything else, and one time there was an expedition in Tibet, and there was a terrible avalanche, and everyone was killed except him and his two Sherpas. And he knew he was in trouble, that they were going to rob him because he was on his own. So he pulled a revolver on his two Sherpas and told them to lead him back down to the town. And when he got down to the town,
Oh, that's
the
funny.
guy from the
Yeah.
Daily Express said, "What happened to the two Sherpas?" And he went, "Well, I ate them, of course."
Did he really? Did he?
No, I mean this is he
Okay.
was a troll. He was a troll,
All
this
right.
is
Yeah. All right. Right.
yeah. He knew how
Okay. Sorry.
he knew how to work the press. He invented trolling. He invented memetics. He invented rock. I mean, yeah. People, if you're of a religious bent, okay, you would find him a lot of his stuff very blasphemous, But if you're neutral, like me, you find him you read you recite a poem like the Book of the Law and the salutation of the Egyptian goddess Nuit, and it's some of the most beautiful verse you could ever
Hmm.
read about like her delicate feet extending from the heavens, so gentle that they don't even crush the smallest flowers on the land. Just he
Hmm.
was a fabulous poet as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
always been my attitude to life. Go through it in the middle. Go right. This is why I hate woke. It's why I hate conservatism. It's why I hate woke. Right down the middle, and then you'll actually enjoy life because you'll be learning things and finding out interesting things.
Yeah. I do like how he was originally inspired by Egypt. Didn't the whole thing came to him in a flash? He was in
Yeah,
Egypt and he saw.
his wife Rose, him and Rose had their honeymoon. They had their honeymoon night inside the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, and the next day they were in, and he was trying to invoke some kind of mystical experience, and it wasn't happening. And then they went to the Cairo Museum where all the artifacts were in there, and one of them was the statue of the god Thoth, and she suddenly went into a trance and started reciting the Book of the Law. So the story goes, but she
Mm.
confirmed that's what happened. But a lot of people that were around them went, things didn't go well. Some of them actually did quite well, but like one of them went on to become a famous musician in Australia. She was like of Irish extraction, but Rose was an alcoholic. She went nuts and basically abandoned the kid, and Victor Neuburg was the guy that his kind of like his scribe, we call him the scribe, that was like his kind of boy, his groupie, his male groupie, like the
Yeah.
kind of like he was enamored with him. And
Yeah.
Neuburg and Tim went into the Algerian desert and they invoked the demon Choronzon. And Neuburg was never the same ever again. I mean, it's literally a ritual where if it goes wrong, you have to kill yourself in order so your soul isn't taken. And Choronzon, by all accounts, came out of the circle, and Neuburg had to be described dictating it. But the experience of actually summoning Choronzon and the demon manifesting, well, Neuburg was never the same person ever again.
Wow. Jesus
So
Christ, I
I
don't know
mean,
about this stuff. This is
he
so
was in the
mind-boggling.
hard. He Crowley was in the hardcore, especially in the early days. But later on, he was really about things like yoga. He was the first person to
Yeah,
introduce actual yoga to Europe. To make popularized.
yeah, yeah,
So so he was a very extremely interesting person. I mean, I'm always interested
yeah,
if they're actors. If I don't give a shit, I'm like I love Jack Parsons. I found a very interesting character. Lovecraft. And I just find I just Harry Clark.
they are.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. They are. They are for sure. I mean, there's so many things I want to say about that. Like, just in all the things you mentioned, even especially the Wheatley guy and his reference to the old Manor states and how they were secretly all sort of like hellfire clubs, you know, carrying on Edwardian Satanists having pervert parties and whatever, and how much that was prevalent behind the scenes at the elite level. And even
Uh,
today, there's a lot of talk of, say,
You
like
you
even
live in
even worse. They're
you,
even worse today. They're like just pedophiles and kind of
yeah.
doing
You
funny
well you
ceremonies.
said you live in Rathfarnham.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so you're just under the Hellfire Club there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll go there all the time.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I love it
Yeah,
up there.
I looked down the well where you're supposed to. If you see the devil's hoof, you'll be damned, and I didn't see it.
Yeah. It's
Feel okay, you know.
did you ever go into Massey's Woods and see the old ancient
Yeah.
megaliths and stuff like that? I used to go camping
Oh,
there
all the
as a kid,
time.
and I had like really weird experiences in those woods like, this was back when they were not popular. And me and
Yeah.
my friends would be in there, and we didn't know at the time it was famous for serial killers and things like that.
Was it? Yeah. Serial
Oh
killers
yeah,
here.
yeah, we a man, the
I
famous
know
serial killer who's on the run. That's
the
where he
one
was.
guy.
What was his
Yeah, I
name?
know. Yeah, the
Uh,
one guy.
The,
Yeah,
the, that
Ireland's most famous.
he got yeah he was murdered. He was in the process of murdering a woman in the woods there, and two hunters came along and stopped them. And it was only
Yeah,
because they had their guns and were able to say, get off that, stop killing that woman. She was the
should have
only one
fucking
that
shot him.
survived. Larry. I
I don't
can't.
remember the name. I remember hearing
Yeah,
the story
but
though. Yeah,
he's still
yeah.
on the run. He's still on the run. Not on the run, but he's
Yeah,
basically got
he
off.
went to Europe or something. He ran to Europe, was it, or something?
Yeah, he
Is
was
that
in
what?
Amsterdam and London, but he got off on a technical. Murphy. Larry Murphy.
Fucking some.
Yeah, he
He's out
got
there
off.
killing prostitutes and somewhere else.
Yeah,
I'm
he
sure
got
he
off on a
is.
technicality, and he's basically probably killed about 8 or 9 women minimum. But like,
Yeah,
even when I was a kid, there was a place known for cults as well. Those Massey's Woods, So a lot of weird
mhm.
shit always went on up there. But
Well, there, yeah, any like the woods. I grew up in Canada, in the woods. Like in my backyard, there was grizzly bears in my back garden, like woods going
yeah,
right at the back. And we went out there at night when any old time, and we had great blast. But there was nothing. I've never had felt the kind of spookiness as I have as being in the woods here at night, even especially alone. The few times this happened, there's like not just spookiness, but like there's just a magical aura about it. I don't know if it's the history or the nature of the thing, or
well,
but there is a
it's
kind of
also ancient magical sites. Stone circles. They're all over
yeah,
the place. Massey's
yeah,
Woods, all that stuff, and also the mansion that was there. The ruins of it is like a Hammer film almost. And
yeah,
maybe the old Massey family
yeah,
were doing that stuff that Dennis Wheatley was talking about. They're probably doing it in the play. I mean, they were doing it up in Lachine House or in Sligo. I mean, there's
yeah,
some really bizarre stories that concerned to that place.
yeah. These are all great. There's actually a story in this about a stone circle. I said it in England. It could have been Ireland easily, but I said it in England because it involves like a rock band from the '70s, and they go to a stone circle, and an ancient god basically comes out of the ground or whatever.
That
So like
sounds
a friend
very
of mine,
that sounds very Hawkwind. Do you like
yeah,
Hawkwind?
yeah.
Because that's very
Oh,
Hawkwind.
fuck, of course. Do I love Hogman? Please don't insult me by even daring. Don't even ask that. Of course, I love Hogman. But a friend of mine actually go up to and drink sometimes on a passage tomb just up the hill, not far from here. Columbus College, up that little funny little road up there. What's
I
that
know
area
them
called?
all. I know them all. Yeah.
There's a passage tomb up there you can go to quite easily, just off the road. We go up there and we drink on it and leave a little libation while we're there and everything. But I don't find that spot particularly spooky. When you go up to like Tibraden and that, I've been up at night on my own in like Tibraden up in those hills there in the forest there,
Yeah.
and I felt a genuine. No, it's not like a fear like I'm going to die or that there's something malevolent. Just sort of like oof, a heavy mystical feeling, like
Yeah.
just a ghostly kind of feeling, like and just like feeling like I want to, like I love it, but I want to leave. I'm a little bit scared and
Yeah,
whatever, right?
I lived in Tala for a while, right, about a year, and I had no money and nothing to do, so I used to go hiking up into the mountains and sleep overnight and stuff in fields and like and
On your own.
Yeah, I'd be hiking up the old military road there. Oh my God!
Oh
Well,
yeah.
that's you ever see the movie A Dark Song? That was all filmed up there, and that place
Which
is so
movie?
spooky. A Dark Song, the movie A Dark Song, that was all
No,
filmed up
what's that?
there. Oh, you have
I
to
don't.
see it. Oh yeah, it's about the Abermiller ritual. Oh, you have to see that. It's a tremendous film. But
Okay.
I did an interview with a chap called David Halpin, who is kind of a folklorist, a megalithic fairy guy. He grew up in Tala in Jobstown, and I had an interview with him recently on my Thomas Sheridan channel, and you'll see him talking about that. Yeah, the Wicklow Mountains border with Dublin Mountains, Wicklow Mountains, that area is full of all kinds of spooky folklore.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I do not doubt it. And like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
and it's an amazing feeling. Anyways,
Oh
a
yeah, you do
tremendous
feel
feeling.
it.
Like,
You
the
do feel
aura
it.
of it
Yeah,
is huge. And
yeah,
even when you talk to, like, I was talking to somebody because I haven't been in. I imagine I always imagined it's sort of the same throughout Europe. But I remember recently I was talking to a German girl, and she was like, "No, there's something about Ireland, the forests in Ireland, that are like
yeah.
beyond even what you might get in the Black Forest in Germany or anything like that." She was telling me this. Anyways, I don't know because
Yeah,
I don't.
I went hiking one time. I made a film about it on the Odenwald in Germany in Lower Hesse in the Franconia region, and I was followed by wolves, and I didn't know it. I thought they were. I thought they were. I thought
That's
they were.
dangerous.
I thought
That
it
is
was.
dangerous. That's more dangerous than bears or anything else. Is
Yeah, I
fucking
didn't
wolf.
even know. I didn't know. I thought it. Well, nothing happened in the end, but I thought it was what you call them, boar. You know, boars, because they will
Yeah,
follow
wild boar. Yeah,
campers
yeah.
and they want their they wanted the food. But then I found out later that the woods it was since the Iron Curtain came down, packs of wolves have been streaming in from Poland.
No
So
way.
it was pretty funny. I think I didn't have. I thought I was hearing these things walking, but I didn't hear it walking behind me. Now they probably wouldn't have attacked me or anything, you know, but they were definitely after the sandwiches, the corned beef
Wolves,
sandwiches.
wolves would be more likely to attack you than any other animal, probably. If you had a pack of wolves following you around, I'd be pretty scared of that one. Yeah,
Well,
but that's funny.
I have a friend in Italy, Tina, and Tina K is her channel on YouTube, and she's audio taped and filmed wolves in her back garden in behind her house in Howling in rural Italy where she lives. So they're all over Europe now. They've come back in enormous numbers everywhere.
Well, that's good. I like to hear that. They're not here, obviously, and they probably won't be here. I can't see them introducing wolves here. They
Yeah.
barely let them introduce the fucking eagles and the
Oh yeah.
birds of prey.
Well, that's one of the things when I become dictator of Ireland, I'm going to reintroduce the wolf.
Yeah, and the bear from the
And the
Ivy
bear,
Caves, whatever the
and the
fuck.
beaver, and the beaver. They brought the beaver back in England, and they're
Yeah, the
discovering
beaver.
that suddenly all the wetlands are now managed beautifully. And I'm like, duh.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the fucking boar,
Link
the wild boar. There
and
was
the
a wild
link.
boar.
Oh well,
Yeah.
there are wild boar now living in Ireland. People have deliberately released them.
I heard
Hunters.
that, but I thought that was a rumor, so it's true, is it?
No, no,
Is
they're all
there?
around here in Sligo. The mountains are all around here.
Oh,
Yeah,
are they? Oh
yeah.
shit.
So but yeah, they live up on all the Ox Mountains here. There's boar in the mountains.
Oh shit. So that's true. Okay. I thought
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
That's
No,
good.
they've been if hunters smuggled them in somehow. How I don't know. I guess brought them on boats, and they've been releasing them in the mountains and breeding them just so they can hunt them. So there are boar populations now establishing in Ireland in this
Hunters
area.
hunters often make the best conservationists.
They
It,
absolutely do. Yeah.
yeah, they really do.
But
But listen, we've got a real tangent there. So, but I mean, of course, absolutely excellent in every imaginable way. We can't complain. But I think we better let you go. Me and my
yeah.
friend Paul here.
Hello, Paul. He's clear. He's
Paul, say
was
goodbye.
is he wearing a sailor's cap?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Is it just a? It's not me trying to be spooky. Like this is my out here. I actually store stuff out here, so that's actually
Mm.
like a Halloween decoration that's like sitting around. So there's no. But
So
good
listen,
old, good old Paul's.
thanks for having me on, and look, best of luck with the comic. It's right up my street, and I'm delighted to see an Irish people doing this stuff because we've been a bit behind other countries in this stuff. It's great to see us in a genre, a media we belong in as much as anyone else.
Yes, absolutely. And you are going to appear in the second issue in a narrative format, in a storytelling format, uh,
Yeah,
which
which is
is
like, it's
quite
kind of
excellent.
funny because it's the last. I was thinking a few months ago, so this may be magic. A few months ago, people said to me, "Have you done anything that you haven't done yet you'd like to do?" And I said, "Well, done TV, movies, films, books, done it all really. Art. The only one I haven't done that I'd love to be somehow involved in the comic business." And I was thinking in terms of one day it'd be nice to get some money to actually help publish something or that kind of thing. I never, and then like a few months later, someone says to me, you guys called me up and said, "Would you like to be in a comic? We're fans of your stuff." So it goes to
Yeah,
show me,
yeah,
did I manifest it? It does make you wonder, doesn't it? But that'll be like that. That'll be the last tick in my box off. That well, the Caravaggio will
yeah.
be to tick off the box, but like that, that's the second last tick.
Because that's funny. That just occurred to me randomly. Because it was Paul that said, like, yeah, we should talk to Thomas, and I was something about it. I thought, yeah, we should actually put him in because I just know you're such an interesting character on your own. You could build a story around you. Having a sort of
Yeah.
adventure. You know,
Yeah, I would have been happy with an
and it
interview,
just
just to
popped
be
in
in
my
the.
brain.
I would have been happy in an interview, but like, yeah, it is pretty funny. It's a pretty funny and cool idea, but yeah, yeah, I'm looking
It should
forward
be
to that.
good. I'm saying, I hope you like it because the way, yeah, I think it'll be good. I think it'll be great. But
Yeah,
anyways, we'll
yeah.
see. That's
Don't
good
write
to
any,
know.
don't put anything bad happening to me in it because we don't want that. What happened to Grant Morrison? Did you know about that? Don't
What
you?
happened? No, tell me what.
He created a character that he got so in comic that he got so heavily invested into, and the character got cancer, and then Grant Morrison suddenly got cancer out of the blue.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
so you have to
No,
be great. So don't do anything that's bad that has a bad ending
no,
for
no,
me.
no, no. That wasn't part of the plan. No, no.
I'd be
Don't
happy
worry about
just
that. We
walking.
won't.
I'm just happy just walking away into the sunset. That'd be enough.
Yeah, no, 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 nothing like that. No, definitely not. I mean, there are going to be some, some violence and things in it, but nothing towards you. No,
Good, thank you.
and it's just going to be a nice little exposition, and as we discussed, a bit of a lesson for for the people as well, a little bit of a
Yeah,
lesson, an underlying lesson, not just pure exploitation or whatever else.
yeah. I mean, I
So
like
it'll be
the.
good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And again, I really, even if I had nothing to do with it, you have my best wishes, and I hope Guts is a huge success for you guys.
Oh, well, thanks very much. Thanks very much. I don't know about huge
Okay,
success, but it'll be as a success as an underground comic can be, let's say. And
thanks,
thanks
Carl.
again for having me on. And you know, thanks for everything. I'll see you around. Talk to you again soon, hopefully, and something or other. And always great to talk to you. Thanks for all the information. I
All the
feel
best.
incredibly enlightened.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. So goodbye.
What if your favorite cult comics grew sharper teeth? Meet Guts, a savage anthology of sci-fi, horror, and fantasy. Bold, graphic, totally inappropriate, grotesque art, dark humor, vibes straight from heavy metal, Mobius, and 2000 AD. Illustrated stories for grown-ups who crave cult aesthetics and gutsy storytelling. Tap now. Read Guts if you dare.